Hey guys, Showster here, checking out Star Wrestling Regenesis on the PlayStation 4. This is a budget title I found on the PlayStation Network. I believe it should be available on Steam and maybe even Xbox One. This is a game that is actually a remaster of 5-Star Wrestling, which was released on the PlayStation 3. The first and foremost thing that I noticed over that game, or at least the screen caps of that game I saw, was the upgraded visuals. The game has an exhibition mode, a challenge mode, plenty of match stipulations, but no tag, no battle royals, triple threats, four-ways, what have you. So really everything boils down to a one-on-one match, which is kind of disappointing because it would have been some great fun to throw 4 players into this thing. There's plenty of options you could have for matches, including countouts at 5 seconds, which, wow, no leeway there. There's also options to turn on or off disqualifications and such. There's a roster of 8 wrestlers here, each of them with their own style and disposition of heel or face. Everybody here is a parody, or ripoff, if you want to be more accurate, of a real-life wrestler, and it doesn't take too much to figure out who's who. Every wrestler in here has a rival. You typically the one who shares your wrestler class. For instance, Johnny Maivia as an entertainer would be a rival of Raging Andy Organ. Heel and face really have just a very simple differential between the two. When playing as a face, you can press R3 and perform a taunt. If you successfully perform it, you'll max out your momentum meter and you'll be able to hit finisher, plus you'll also be invulnerable for a time. If you're playing as a heel, you'll be able to perform a dirty move, but you got to be careful if you're in case you get disqualified. Though if you do happen to use up your Hulk up taunt, you'll just go to hitting dirty moves anyways, so heel or face really doesn't have quite the differential, and there's no real, taking away of momentum for performing dirty moves as a face. The visuals here are pretty decent. I won't say that they're the best, but they're certainly not the worst. The wrestlers look decent enough to get by, especially with the price. Match types work similar to say SmackDown vs. Raw vs. 2007 or so, only a little bit different. Where I mean that is, in those games where you would initiate a grapple and then use and then perform a grapple move from that grapple, what you'll instead do is you will have you could perform a quick grapple just by flicking the right analog stick. Or you could modify it into a stronger grapple by using any of the shoulder buttons. The same action works with strikes and running as well as running strikes and grapples. Head moves, grounded moves for your opponent's head, legs, and whether they're lying face up or face down. There's also 2 meters down there. The yellow meter will determine your overall momentum. The blue meter determines your stamina. Momentum is you need to build up to perform finishers, and stamina you need to keep high so that you don't collapse after performing a move. There's also a damage meter, which is pretty much how you're going to, which acts as sort of a life bar. Wrestlers really can't be pinned until they're in deep, dark red, so yeah, it's a little bit tricky, and it makes matches kind of drag on a bit. One interesting thing about the damage meter is, as opposed to SmackDown vs. Raw, when you would get damage done to you in any area and it would go into red. If you were to use a move that would use that area, you would take a few minutes to sell the injury, giving your opponent some time to recover. When you get damage here, it not only makes you more susceptible to submissions, but if you damage someone's legs into red, they can no longer lift you up. This is especially important when you have people like Mike Iceberg, who has a lot of power moves, and I believe even his finisher is a running move. Very important. So protecting your legs are kind of an important thing in the match. The goal of every matchup is to gain a 5-star match, and you'll make Mr. Meltzer proud by mixing up your moves, performing lots of taunts, and I do mean a lot of taunts, and by doing exciting things like hitting finishers and drawing blood. The matches themselves, well, they're pretty basic for your one-on-one match. Everything is, well, it's a little clunky. Hit detection can be a little bit off, and sometimes even aiming your wrestler to connect with a move is a little trickier than it should be. Also, there happens to be some little weird AI problems where it'll get stuck trying to run up a corner. I noticed that's also a little bit more difficult than it really should be in this game as well. Let's see. Finishers here are handled pretty much by pressing triangle. You could use a standard finisher, or you could use a strong finisher, which will do more damage but take up more of your stamina. Hitting back-to-back finishers that are strong will leave you, will basically have you collapsing, and you'll be struggling to get up for a few seconds. There needs to be the game has some other little problems. When you're playing in no DQ matches or last man standing or even first blood matches, there's one big thing that's missing, and that's weapons. I know this sounds like a little complaint to be using, but we couldn't have designed and animated a chair. We've had chairs since Royal Rumble back on the 16-bit consoles, and it really takes away a lot of the excitement that you could get out of a game like this when you have no weapons. The game also features a challenge mode in which you'll compete in different match types and with different wrestlers. Every wrestler has their own individual challenge tower, and so it gives you a good chance to experiment and play around with each wrestler's style. Another thing that's interesting about the challenge tower is that it brings a lot of fun, because there's a that's really needed here with the with the various challenge. For instance, in one match you'll have to perform a springboard dive with Harvey D, and then in the next you'll have to wear down somebody's arm before putting them in the Kimura with Ragnarok. It gives a lot of chance to kind of experiment and mix around, and it really gets you into the act of experiencing just everybody's and everything that this game has to offer, which is pretty cool. I like how finishers can be countered out of nowhere and turned into other finishers, especially late in the match, so it could lead to some pretty good battles. This would be even better if there was an online mode. So for now, you're kind of stuck playing on a couch. Submissions, I feel, take way too long. There isn't enough timer on the counter, and the frantic button mashing doesn't lend itself well, especially when somebody's in red damage and you feel you should be able to win the match right there and then. There's unlockables in the shop, including including different attires and even different arenas and dispositions for every wrestler. Personally, I wish there was a little more. There was some more stuff, like maybe some extra wrestlers that you could have purchased and then used in the game. That would have really increased some replay value out of this game. I also wish that there was, I also wish that there was some, better AI, more things like cage matches, more things like even just being able to have a tag match. That way you could kind of get some fun, chaotic, wrestling in there, even if it wasn't intentional. Overall, I think this game is it's an okay game. It's not great, but for $20, I mean, you can't really beat it. And if you're looking for kind of that old SmackDown versus Raw feel, you could go worse, or you couldn't if you just buy an older console and get one of those games. Your mileage may vary. My final score for this one, I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10. Again, it's nice to have some different type of wrestling action, but I just wish that there was a little bit more originality, a few more modes, and some more, I don't know, interesting ways to sort of like brighten up matches, including weapons or what have you. Playing this game makes me feel like maybe I should try something else. Try something else that I've never done before. Maybe something new. Maybe something from Japan.